Spawn opening, Firouzja nearly always opens this way against the top players in the world. We're going to see an open Sicilian. No, we see White's bishop come out. And this is something that the two players debated earlier today. And, okay, slightly different take on that previous game. Still a well-known position. White's light squared bishop saving itself. And, yeah, Black's knight coming out. Black needs to get the king castled. It's all about fighting for the center. Firouzja is going to try and break out. But Magnus, meanwhile, just trying to stifle a smile there. He's going to castle his king to safety. This is Magnus showing he means business. He's playing all his best openings. No more kind of freestyling, no more experimentation. And, okay, Duda takes a bit of a... sorry, not Duda. Firouzja takes a bit of a slower approach.
Yeah, I mean, Firouzja likes these kind of setups, doesn't he? I mean, he's one of the leading players, as we mentioned before, under Raul Lopez, the Spanish opening, and I expect him now to start shoving his knight over to the king side. But Magnus has a nice space hold in the middle of the board, so he only needs that draw, so he's just got to hold the position. A bit of a similar structure to what he got in the last game in some ways. Yeah. Can Firouzja break out? Here comes the knight, and things heating up for, well, I expect a very interesting middle game. Firouzja's got to bounce in the middle at some point with a break to liven it up.
Yeah, and I think both sides are going to be happy with how this opening has panned out. Magnus, you know, he's got that space advantage that he so loves on the left, and he's actually keeping the position relatively closed, and so much tension on the board, so many possibilities, anything can happen.
Yep, anything can happen. Firouzja, meanwhile, redevelops that white light squared bishop to a slightly better diagonal, staring down at the black king, pinning a pawn. Maybe the white bishop will go into the center of the board. We saw a very similar pattern a few games ago between these two. It's just very tense. I think Firouzja's chosen a decent opening attempt, just keeping all the pieces on and maintaining the tension, just hoping that Magnus maybe gets impatient. But Magnus, in this scenario where he needs a draw, he's happy to trade off pieces. Will those light squared bishops disappear? Firouzja, one kind of good winning attempt in these must-win situations is to change the pawn structure. He could trade off these light squared bishops, double the black pawns now. Or will he just leave things as they are? The white rook on the open file, on the A file, I quite like, but hard to achieve much with that. He just looks very relaxed, the world champion.
Yeah. He does, yeah. He seems very relaxed in this tournament in general. I mean, you know, we were talking about him laughing in the first game, and he's just been really chilled in the interviews as well, which is great to see. We saw the bishop go here in that other game, didn't we? Quite funnily enough, but in that game, Magnus was able, I think he captured it with his knight, didn't he?
He did.
So it's a similar idea here, and Magnus got a very nice game from doing that, and well, he must be equal now. He's got all his pieces developed. He's got a bit of a space advantage, and not any problems for the world champion here at the moment.
Is White going to do anything with this excursion on the A line?
Just looks like a one-move threat. Black's knight on that left side is threatened. You can just defend it with a rook. You can make an argument for moving it if you really need to. It is one open file, but if that's it that Firouzja can kind of claim as activity, then it shouldn't be enough. I wouldn't be surprised if the rook next to Magnus's king kind of swings across.
It's actually very difficult to find a plan for Firouzja because any pawn breaks they don't really help his position. And yeah, as you mentioned, David, it's not easy to kind of take control of the A line and do something with it. Meanwhile, Magnus probably has a relatively straightforward plan, and that is just to consolidate and then maybe at the right time push forward with f7, f5.
Yes.
Touch that one ever.
Really? I mean, I would have thought he could do the similar plan we mentioned before, take the bishop, move the knight back and throw the f-pawn up the board, no? I mean, isn't that a
maybe if you
nice
take
way
the
of doing
bishop,
it?
If he wants to play for the win, then this is what he would do.
Yeah, and now...
He needed a draw. I'm surprised he's taking risks there.
Yeah, but now the f-pawn at least is ready, I mean, to go. I mean, this looks quite normal, I guess, in some ways, though. I mean...
Yeah.
But you'd be a bit scared about this, would you, David, just for changing the structure?
Doesn't look great. And now it's easier for White to control the A file. I mean, it's still, there's nothing wrong with it, clearly, for Black. Objectively, it's just a matter of taste. But it is risky. It's riskier than just kind of sitting on the position and doing nothing, which Magnus could have done. And lower on the clock, Firouzja almost 1 minute up. He needs to somehow get the white pieces active. As you mentioned, black's pawns are coming, so you need to get those white minor pieces rearranged at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe the white queen could swing across to the corner just to completely dominate the A-file. So tense.
Yeah, Magnus is happy. It is him against the teenagers now, and it is Magnus in the lead. If he only gets a draw in this game, he will win the match, and it's for Prague as well to make a comeback against Duda. But the bar actually right now over to Prague's side in that game, and the bar now shifts side in this one.
I was surprised by this move because I thought Alireza's last move with the queen actually prevented this pawn push, because now there's like maybe ideas of playing bishop takes pawn and unleashing some hidden attacks.
Yeah, a lot of calculation to be done. Firouzja, can he go for a direct tactic? And maybe while he thinks here, while he calculates this, shall we... OK, we will see a move from Firouzja. OK, this is odd. We're looking at Firouzja's screen right now. It looks like he's clicked his rook in the middle of the board. Looks like he's about to swing it across the whole way to the left, maybe. Trying to guess his move here. He needs to move quickly because he spent a lot of time on this one move. A minute now, almost, for Firouzja. And he's going to go for the tactic you mentioned there, Jovanka. He does give up the white bishop temporarily. This bishop will be captured. Otherwise, Magnus has just lost a pawn. And then there will be a discovered check. White's pawn in the middle. OK, Magnus did blunder this. I think Magnus just took his eye off the ball for 1 second. This is the type of thing I don't know. It feels like Magnus is playing for the win, but he only needs the draw. Taking risks.
Yeah. Well, the position suddenly has gotten a little bit wild. So many things to calculate. And so
that white queen on the same diagonal as the black king. Like, I don't know.
He could have tucked his king in the corner. That's what I would have done.
And that black king now is vulnerable.
Yeah, and the more tactical it gets, obviously, the better chances White has. I mean, if it looks like you're right, David, this idea was a bit risky. I mean, but the last move was actually just a blunder, I think, and Magnus not happy with the way things have gone. You don't want to, even if black's OK here, you don't want to enter into complications in these types of positions against, especially Firouzja. So there's a chance of a playoff coming up here, maybe. And here we go. Tactics on the board.
Chaos, and White is one piece down. He did unleash this discover check with his queen. He just sacrificed a second piece, but now he wins the black rook. And what is the material count? Black has a bishop and a knight for White's rook. There are pawns all over the place. This knight jump, suddenly a discovered attack. Black's rook is hitting the white queen. White's queen can move, though. A few choice of squares.
Very strange material imbalance here. I mean, Firouzja's got to risk it, and he's got to be happy with sort of imbalanced material, because you need that when you need to win. I mean, you could maybe even swap the queens off here when you've got a lot of pawns on the queen side, but don't underestimate black's pawns as well. And black's got the two minor pieces against the rook, which can coordinate extremely well together. So what do you do with the queen here? Can you give the queen up somehow? I can't see how you can give the queen up. I think you just got to, play it in front of the rook here and do something like that, maybe, or
maybe
I think
step it next to the black queen, offer a trade in that way. I mean, it's so complicated,
incredibly complex.
Yeah, I mean, Magnus, did he blunder this or did he calculate it? Either way, it seems to have worked out just about all right for him. And Firouzja now on the clock. But this is the most he could have asked for, Firouzja, from the position he had. Just chaos, just tactics. It's normally suiting his style, this type of thing. Yeah,
this position is just insane, actually. I'm not even sure who's better, to be honest. I mean, anything can happen. The white pawns can get motoring up the board. The black pieces could coordinate very well. But either way, one thing for sure, probably white needs to trade off the queens.
Yeah, I mean, black's pawns in the middle, it can be very dangerous soon as well. So, when little things like this happen, tempo is so important. You don't want to lose tempo in these little exchanges if you can help it, because every tempo lost gives your opponent that chance to gain the initiative. So I don't know where the queen goes here.
Why is Firouzja clicked on his rook at the bottom of the board? You can see the piece that's highlighted is his rook at the bottom, but his queen is attacked on the top rank. So he can't move that piece. Why has he clicked on it? It's bizarre. Unless there's some crazy tactic that I don't see.
Well,
I'm a bit worried also about his clock time, because he's ticked to under 45 seconds.
Yeah, he needs to move that white queen. Nothing else to do.
He
does finally retreat his white queen.
Yeah.
Okay, black bishop attacked.
It's just clicking on the rook randomly. It's a bit bizarre.
Why would you do that there?
Yeah.
Risking mouse slips there.
Yeah, mouse slip's horrible.
Maybe this is a good choice of square.
Yeah.
The white queen, helping to attack the black pawn next to her.
And what a mess this position is now. I mean, there's a material imbalance, and there goes another pawn in the centre. Who's got the better? Is the rook stronger than the knight and bishop, or are the knight and bishop going to coordinate? That pawn looks incredibly strong as well. God, 2 squares from queening. These guys, they have such fun games. I can see why.
Boring between these two.
Yeah, I can see why Magnus wanted to play Firouzja in the World Championships, because you can imagine the chaos that would erupt in those tactical encounters.
Imagine commentating on that. That would be so fun.
That'd be brilliant.
Under 15 seconds actually for Alireza Firouzja. You need to keep an eye on that dangerous pass pawn that black has. And gosh, this position is so crazy.
It looks like white's now centralised, and white's maybe got the better control here, right? I mean, he's keeping an eye on that black pass pawn. If that pawn goes, then surely white's better. White's rooks are roaming free as well, and black's minor pieces, they can't really move, right? You can't move the bishop that much, I don't think. I say that, so I'm not even sure. You can't move the knight that well, so I think white is now the favourite in this one, could be going to the Armageddon.
And
look at the clock.
Clock time, 3 seconds.
3 seconds, wow, I didn't see that. So,
He did not lose on time, Firouzja there. 3 seconds. OK, the queens are just coming off. There's a big threat of checkmate if black's rook comes down to the bottom of the board. But no, white's king now has breathing space. Really nice move there from Firouzja, creating breathing space, trying to undermine the defender of the black knight.
I mean, we know that Firouzja is so good when he's got no time on the clock, but he's the only player I think you could handle having no time on the clock. No one else in the world could play this position with seconds on the clock.
Especially not against Magnus. So the material count right now, white has a rook and 2 pawns for black's knight and bishop. So white has a small material advantage. The rook and 2 pawns worth 7, the knight and bishop worth 6. But it's chaos. And look at this from Magnus. Pushing pawns, giving up more pawns. White now has 3 extra pawns. And, OK, where's this knight jumping to? Some nasty knight forks threatened.
But I reckon that his whole idea with pushing Harry up the board is he wants to set up a dangerous mating net. He wants to put that king under pressure. And suddenly you just see he's just upped the pace.
Yeah, and white's rook retreating. The black rook is now going to try and get active. And I just like where the knight and bishop are right now. They're great on great squares. They can't be kicked around, but it's all about those 2 white pawns. Firouzja's just running with them, sprinting with those 2 up the board. They might decide this game.
Yeah, has black got enough counterplay against white's king? I don't think so, and here comes the B pawn. Barry is coming. Barry is going to queen himself.
And there's a knight fork in the position, but that is easy to run away from. Black's knight, if it centralises. It feels like Magnus was trying to hustle Firouzja on the clock, but Firouzja survived and now has nearly 20 seconds.
And the plan now for white is very simple. You just try to queen the pawn, push that pawn, get a queen. So Magnus has got to go for these tricks as such here. But I don't know, those pawns looking too good now.
Yeah.
Barring a massive turnaround, we are heading for Armageddon in this clash. Look at the 2 white rooks as well, combining. Barry, the B pawn, is just running. How do you stop it from marching up the board?
You
He's too
can't.
strong.
You have to try to set up some counter-attack, but that's very difficult. And so Magnus is trying. So his idea is to relocate the bishop to the D4 square so he can attack the pawn, but that is not going to work.
Yeah, it's not really going to work. White's rook retreating. Bit of a mysterious one there. A bit of an odd choice of square. Now black's bishop, most likely.
Oh, look at the bar.
Yeah, I think maybe that was a mouse slip from Firouzja. It would have made sense to bring the white rook to this square immediately. He lost a move there.
It could be. It could be. I totally agree with you. Yeah, he's lost a very important tempo there. Because if it's his move now, he can move the other pawn. But can Magnus create more problems here? I mean, can he do something with the knight now?
Maybe.
Potentially. The bishop and rook are very well placed.
Start attacking the knight.
And here he comes with the knight, and the knight is now ready to jump in, maybe opening up the white king a little bit more. Magnus is back in the game yet again here. That one little mouse slip there. That knight now jumping forwards looks like the natural move to play. I mean, it's so tense, but OK, he comes another way. So, surprising.
Odd. OK, he's really going for this white rook. Firouzja, sneaky there, lifts his rook to the top of the board, and oh, this could win a piece now for white. Both the black knight and black bishop are attacked. Magnus had to give up his bishop. Now pawns on the same side of the board. This should be a win for white. Black's pawns are just too loose.
Yeah, and you got 2 rooks here as well, haven't you, to annoy Black's position? And yeah, this is simplifying somewhat, but this has been up and down, hasn't it? I mean, Armageddon looks so lightly now. Oh.
Rooks are off the board. Black needs a miracle. The Black Knight needs to find a better square before it's too late. Yeah, this one should be a win for white. White's rook is clearly better than that Black Knight.
Still some hope, because knights are very crafty pieces and it can jump forward to give a check, and that's what's happened.
Has he just lost his pawn?
Yeah, he has.
Look at Firouzja, he just leaned back and put his hand on his head.
What's going on?
He just lost a pawn for free.
Oh,
suddenly, no more easy win. This is a fight. How he just gave away a pawn for free. Walked into a check. It was the clock, I think, that played a big factor there. Black's king will step back. White's remaining pawn is under fire as well. This one...
Oh, wow.
This is so hard, because the knight is actually separated far away from the king.
This is a very nice move. I mean, you've got to, yeah, like you say, Jovanka, the way you've got to try to win this one is keep the Black Knight away from the Black King, right?
But it gets back. The Black Knight is coming back. It's going to use its pawns to protect it, and suddenly, who's playing for the win? Suddenly, Magnus, if Alireza Firouzja doesn't kind of pull the handbrake, Magnus has chances. Only, I think that he's out of danger. There was a checkmate threat there. Black's king, as long as he doesn't walk into a checkmating net, he shouldn't lose any more, Magnus. He just needs to get his knight back into the game.
Still some chances for white, though, because the Black Knight is sidetracked at this moment in time. The Black King is also stuck on the back rank, so you can certainly push for the win here. If you can just get that knight, of course, it's going to be winning for white. But here it comes, back towards the king. This is what Magnus needs to do, and I think he's going to do it. If he gets the Black Knight next to the Black King, it's a pretty simple technical draw, and I think he's done that now. He's got the Black Knight next to the king. There you go. This is a draw. The king can just look after the knight now. You can see relax their body language as well. Magnus is obviously very confident in this position. Keep the knight near the king. The king can defend the knight. You've got to watch out for, obviously, the obvious blunders, but it's he's held it remarkably.
The problem here, the reason white can't win, is you can never get your king opposite the Black King. Black's knight will always check your way. As soon as you go one way with the White King, the Black King will go the other way. And yeah, the Black Knight is just a perfect defender. Look how it blocks the checks, stopping the White King from moving. And there we go. It's a draw, and Magnus takes today's match.
Wow, what a fight between these two. A handshake, and it's over. Magnus takes the 2 points.